Olin, good morning. Thank you for getting up with us.
Appreciate you guys having me. If I would have stayed as long as some of these guys you're about to watch tonight, I might have won the Heisman as a center. But that's for a whole nother conversation, right? But tough ending, man, to an amazing year for the Chicago Bears, David and Mully, and just a fun year to watch. And going over that film this morning, you see all the things that I'm sure we're going to talk about and people are going to discuss for a while going forward about, the interception going forward on fourth down. It's just this team was. I don't know what you guys thought at the end and how you guys felt at the end of the game, but this team gave you everything they had, fought to the last minute of every game, and it was really fun for an analyst like me to watch them win. Now, you heard them all say at the end of the game that every year changes, that next year is not guaranteed, and they wanted to make a run to Super Bowl. And I tell you what, I was impressed hearing that from them because that is exactly correct.
That was the right response, and Ben Johnson put it very well. And Olin, you could feel his emotion and intensity in that room and the sense of regret. And yet I think there's also a sense of how rewarding the season was. How do you balance those from a player's perspective? Because today, cleaning out your lockers, knowing that nothing will be the same again because that group of players was so special, and as difficult as it is, it's still promising. So that's a difficult balance to strike.
Yes, it's a great question. How do you balance those feelings of who's going to be there, who's not? How do you feel about the season you just had? Really accomplished a lot right in that season. We talked a lot before going into this year. Glad we don't have to mention next year that the Bears haven't won a playoff game since I played, and they went on and beat the Green Bay Packers in spectacular fashion, right? And that was a great win for the city and the Chicago Bears and the team. But as guys know, you guys have been following this league a long time. A lot of these guys won't be back. You want to celebrate at the end of the year with the Super Bowl ring, right? That is the ultimate goal, to go there and win the Super Bowl. And when you don't, and you have a team that you feel like is special, you have a team that you feel like is a team of destiny, that this team kind of looked like, right, when you watch them play, and especially when Caleb got the ball from the 14-yard line and dropped back to the 40-yard line and decided to throw a touchdown pass to Cole Kmet. And I'm thinking, man, Virginia McCaskey is smiling down on the Chicago Bears this year, right, with that huge patch on their shoulder pads. But at the end of it, man, it's just, we all know that if you don't get to the ultimate goal, it feels like you came up short. And then that's from a guy who came up and lost that game, right? And then you want to celebrate the year, but you don't get to the point where you get the Super Bowl ring. And that is the ultimate goal. And I think that's what Ben was saying at the end of the game. But that you could tell by his emotion, the way he talked about his team, that he knew he had a special group in there, a group that fought for each other, a group that fought to the end of every football game, a group that I think I enjoyed watching. I enjoyed watching the way they competed for each other, the way they got after football teams, the way they believed they were always in the football game, a young quarterback who became a multiplier as the year went on, a young football team, a defense that found a way to keep the number one Rams offense out of the end zone all game. Just a very interesting football team to watch. You never knew what you were going to get. Even when they were overmatched, you knew they were going to find a way to be in the football game.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, we all know the reality of the NFL is not for long, and there are going to be different people, probably different coaches. Maybe they're moving up. I don't know, but there's always change. That is the only constant, really, in life, and certainly in sports and in the NFL in particular. I think that I was appreciative of the fact that everybody so far this morning and obviously last night in the postgame, there's a lot of appreciation for what was seen. And you mentioned it. They won a playoff game, and I think we have a different feeling about that. They found a head coach, and, man, they got that decision right, it would appear. They found a quarterback, and that kid looks like he wants to win and wants to get better. I loved hearing from him in the postgame where he talked about working on his footwork, and that will help him with his accuracy. It just feels like they're moving in the right direction, and I can't think of many times where you say that about the Chicago Bears, where you don't come out of a season and say, yeah, well, if they had the quarterback or if that kid was a little bit better or this guy could do this. I feel like they really did kind of top out. They got everything they could from their team.
Right, 6-11, 3-14, 7-10, 5-12, 11-6 this year, right? So they turned it around this year, and we know that is why everyone who's probably calling in this morning, that's like, I feel it, you guys feel it. It's like, yeah, we took a step forward here to this year. And you got the, what did Ted Phillips say years ago, right? We don't have the quarterback, we don't have the coach, we don't have the winning record, but everything else is here, right? Well, now President Warren can come out and George McCaskey and say, look, man, we got the quarterback and we got the coach and we are winning football games, right? And that, I don't know how many times, guys, you can go back through Bears history and feel like that after the season has ended, that you do have your quarterback. Let's build around this young player from USC, Caleb Williams, who seems like he has the clutch gene this year, who can make plays. And even in this game, when I went through this game, guys, he was being a multiplier. Guys were getting beat. He was running for first downs. You guys remember the 26-yard gain late in the game, right, where he got out of there and Jared Verse said, look, I figured it out. I just got to go for the ball. Well, he figured out that he didn't figure it out. Right, and then he made the linebacker landman miss, and he went for the gain, and then there was an OT where he ran on 3rd and 4 and made number 10 miss, and then he put his shoulder down and got the first down, and he just kept doing things that end the game, and obviously the interception comes, and he had 5 in the last 3 games. It's something I'm sure that they want to talk about. Ben Johnson wants to talk about with him after the season, but a young quarterback that grew, and when you can say that for your franchise, man, as you guys know, the most important thing to say after the year, right, is, hey, man, I think we got the right coach who can develop a quarterback. Our offensive scheme is not going anywhere. They will lose guys, right? They will lose, maybe Al Harris, maybe Declan Doyle, maybe Coach Bieniemy. You never know. These are just names that I'm sure people are excited about. But, Dennis Allen comes back, the defensive coordinator. He ain't going nowhere. And their special teams coordinator is not going anywhere. So their scheme is back in the building. They look like they're on the right path. They look like they got a young coach who gets it, who never lets off the gas pedal, who pushes everybody, who keeps everybody uncomfortable. How many times have we heard that from a new coach coming to the Chicago Bears? I'm going to keep everybody uncomfortable. I'm going to hold them accountable. First time at the end of the year, the players will echo what that guy said and said, yeah, he did do that to me. And you heard Caleb talk about how hard Ben was on him all year and almost crying in the locker room, thanking this guy because, gosh, when you have 4 coordinators in a year, you feel like you're doing great. You guys mentioned Stroud earlier. Look what he's going through with all the coordinators you got down there.
Right.
Coaching is hard to find in the NFL. Development is hard to find in the NFL. And it looks like the Chicago Bears are on the right path.
Could not agree more, Olin. And I think that DeAndre Swift, fighting back tears post-game, spoke to that when he said the lesson that he took away from this season more than any was hard work works. And that's straight from the head coach's mouth to his players' ears. And you could see they played with that purpose. Just wonder now, if you take a step back, and as much as I agree with everything you said, let's look at it from your analyst role. You've got 2 fourth down situations that Ben Johnson, being aggressive and tapping into that aggressiveness, passed up field goals, left the points maybe off the board, and he could have kicked a field goal on the opening drive, and then later could have attempted a field goal. It would have been a long one, but Santos is in his home field. What did you think about those decisions, and then Ben Johnson's overall aggressive approach against a Ram team that he knew was going to score some points?
First, I would take the points, but I know this: if you feel that way, then you shouldn't have hired Ben Johnson, right? That is the coach that we got, and I got a public service announcement. He's never going to take the points, guys, there, especially against the number 1 offense in the league, right? And we'll complain about it and say he was wrong, but that's not who he is. And you guys made a great point earlier that early in the game, he doesn't know if they're going to stop that offense, especially after the first drive, right? And what his defense has looked like and what the Rams have looked like. And Stafford sure did look cold throwing that football yesterday, but the defense, the secondary, I heard you guys keep praise on Brisker. Even late in the game, Kevin Byard makes a 2-yard tackle for loss, right? This defense, man, Dennis Allen, again, using his cornerbacks, using the nickel backs, using Kyler Gordon, using those guys to set the edge, to make a difference in the game. And then, our partner on the pre- and post-game show, Pat Manley, made a great point in the pregame show that they don't have the kind of speed that threatens the Bears' defense. And, I thought Pat was crazy, but he's right. The Bears did a nice job covering Puka Nacua, and obviously he makes the play late in the game when Dennis Allen went to blitz 0, right? They got him into field goal range to win the game, and he's one-on-one with Brisker there, and just a tough job for Jaquan Brisker. But, I know all the things you go through, and you heard Coach Ben Johnson talk about after the game, like the go-to-go plan he didn't feel good. That's why he didn't go for it for a 2-point conversion, right? I think that a lot of that was the run game. I think if you could question something they did, it was going into the game and kicking Tooney out and moving McFadden to left guard. And I feel like that really affected the way they moved the ball in the run game, affect the cohesion inside. When I went back and watched the film with moving guys off the ball, and Verse may have not did much rushing the passer, but he was violent against the run, and he was a handful. And there were some mental mistakes inside on TTs, on games, and things they did. It looked like the Rams watched the Lions film and lined up in what the Lions lined up in, which is Vic Fangio 6-1 on obvious rundowns. It looks like a 6-1 out there in the middle of the field, but I thought that was a problem there in the game, and he said that's why he didn't go for it on a 2-point conversion. But when I watch him, guys, nowadays, I'm like, he's going for it, right? I don't know about you guys, but we get to those points in those games, and I'm like, I wouldn't. Right, I'm old school football, and I'm gonna take the points. But if you're gonna do that, you got to fire your coach. He's not gonna do that. He's gonna be aggressive. He's gonna go for it. He's gonna put the ball in his playmakers' hands. I mean, earlier in the game, Caleb Williams does find DJ Moore with a great pass for a touchdown, a 4th down. But they kept getting to those situations, guys, because their run game, their plan, what they had, wasn't working.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting, the Tooney decision. I'd love to have heard more about that as to why they wanted to move him outside. Did they feel that they could run more things because that would eliminate the pressure on it? Or, I mean, again, the old adage has always been, you don't make 2 moves to solve one problem.
We'll get to his explanation, Olin, but I think what he said initially was that he felt like Joe Tooney's ability to anchor down gave them more confidence to protect the passer because Verse was that violent of a pass rusher, and they didn't want that aspect to stop their offense or wreck their game plan.
Then they should.
Yeah, I heard him, and I don't argue with him. Verse is the violent pass rusher, right? And they were helping out Joe Tooney with chips and things like that from the receivers and the tight ends and the running backs. And the thing is, you got to make 2 changes right in there, and it affected the run game. I thought, I mean, Joe Tooney, like we said in the pregame show, I didn't think he was going to be the problem. Right? I didn't think Joe Tooney's got great feet. I went back and watched him in the Eagles game in the Super Bowl once I heard about it, and I just watched the way he played. And, he struggled a little bit out there, obviously late in the Super Bowl when they had to throw the ball a lot. They fell behind by a lot, which never happened to the Bears yesterday. But Joe Tooney's, man, he's got great feet. What a teammate, right, guys? I mean, what if Mitch came to me and said, Olin, okay, you're going to take Mully's place and run the morning show. Get the hell out of here, man. I ain't doing that. Right? No way. Like Joe just said, yeah, I'll go play left tackle while you put McFadden in there at left guard for the first time this year. But just messed up some of the cohesion in there, messed up some of the run blocking, messed up some of the combo blocks. A couple of plays McFadden was pulling on critical downs, and didn't do the job I thought Joe Tooney probably would have done if he was pulling in there as a guard to hit Jared Verse on the edge. You guys remember late in the game when Swift bounced it outside there, and they give the ball up on downs. That was one of the plays. I thought Joe Tooney would have done a nice job in there. It just looked like some of the cohesion that had grown. You guys have heard a lot of people talk about how O-lines are always better as a unit, right? They're always better working together, and they know what someone's going to do, and they don't have to communicate, and they just know what the adjustments have to be. And some of that was lost with the changes they made. And I thought that if they would have went with Theo, they have all played together in their spots before and understand what they need to do.
Olin, so the miraculous 4th down conversion with Cole Kmet in the end zone, everyone's raving about that. Excitement's at its peak. In that moment, you're Ben Johnson. You're keeping your wits about you. What's your thought process about going for 2, trying to go for the win? Or do you play for overtime because you're at home and now you're clinging to conventional wisdom? What was going through your mind at that time?
Ben was going to go for 2, but with Ben Johnson, it's not in the moment. He's decided that before they even went on the drive, right? What he's going to do at that time, whether he kicks the extra point or not. He said, I think I did a good job at the end of the game saying that they had struggled in go-to-go situations and the packages, and we just talked about what the struggle was. In my opinion, the packages that he had in those situations weren't working the way he thought they were going to work. So lost some confidence in those plays and kicking the field goal, kick the extra point and go into overtime. I think on paper, the Rams are the better football team. And I think you try to end the game and you don't want to go into OT with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay there, where Sean McVay didn't have the best day, right? Yesterday, either play calling wise and, what the hell was that? 3rd and 10 running the ball with 2:07 left in the game. The clock's going to stop anyway. So the Bears aren't calling timeout.
Yeah.
So that was crazy.
That was crazy.
I thought he struggled a lot during that game too, with play calling and things he did. And we all know that he is a really, really good football coach. But I just think I don't want to go into overtime versus that team. And I'm going to take my chance there and call my best 2-point play. And I got Ben Johnson and I got Caleb Williams. And I'm going to let them try to go beat the Rams right there. And I think everybody would have understood if he did do that. But thought he gave a great explanation at the end of the game of why, because I was wondering why he didn't do that.
This segment with Olin Kreutz is sponsored by Plumbers 911, plumbing emergency call. The plumbing professionals, available 24/7 at 1-833-PLUM-911. As far as the interception at the end of the game was concerned, Olin, a lot of people were upset that DJ Moore appeared to quit on that route or I don't know how compromised he was, quite frankly. And, obviously when Loveland went out with a concussion, it really damaged the Bears. And he was their big target guy, followed by DJ Moore. So it shouldn't have been a stunner that you wanted to go to him, but it was second down and it was a risky play to run, and obviously it blew up on the Bears. But I'm just wondering what your takeaway was when you went back and watched it.
Just saying to what everyone is saying, right? Like, it was just second down. Why throw it across the field? Why did DJ Moore not look like he was going for the football? Why did he not break it up? I think that's the second time. I forget when it was the last game that he did that. I have to go back and watch that play, that people thought he didn't fight hard enough for a football. He wasn't in the tent for 5 minutes. I don't, obviously that means something is going on. So I don't know everything that was going on with him, and he was fighting through that game. But, it was, I remember Caleb just had that quarterback sneak for the first down. He walked out. You remember that walk he had, and the stadium went crazy, man. I thought that these guys are going to win this football game. And like you're talking about on second down, just shocked that that ball went up in the air in the middle of the field where, DJ's got to go for that football. And, you'll hear every quarterback on Twitter and all over the place blame the receiver. And like you guys know, I'm an offensive line guy. I'll always find a way to blame everybody else. I can make the film say anything I wanted to say. And I'm sure some receiver out there, although I think Terrell Owens Terrell Owens is on Twitter, but it's just he said that DJ Moore should have done it, but it's just what Ben thinks, Caleb thinks about it, DJ Moore thinks about that play. It did not look good. I don't want the ball over the middle of the field at that time anyway. We'd like to see Caleb use his legs, extend the play like he usually does, go get a couple of yards, or just throw that ball away there. Know the situation you're in, right? And just that this is what we talk about with the development of the quarterback, and in those situations, in that kind of game, like Stafford did, right, with a blitz zero, he's going to find Puka Nacua on Jaquan Brisker, give him a quick pass, let him get 16 yards, and put them in field goal range. Just kind of a, I don't know how else to put it, just kind of sucks that play happened at that point in the football game.
Great stuff, Olin. Thank you for a great year. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Olin.
Appreciate it, guys, man. Always good being on with you guys.